students, you have all heard of the term psychology being used frequently in our day-to-day lives. The subject psychology has become increasingly popular day by day. This fast growing subject is an offshoot of philosophy. With the passage of time, the content of psychology has acquired scientific nature and it is no longer based on speculation. The gradual change of this subject from philosophy to science has been responsible for the change in the meaning and concept from time to time, as may be evident from the discussion that we shall take up now. Let us discuss about the origin of psychology as a subject. First, let us discuss how it was being perceived in terms of the study of soul. The earliest attempts at defining psychology owe their origin to the most mysterious and philosophical concept, namely that of soul. Etymologically, the very word psychology means the study of soul, as it is derived from two Greek words, psyche meaning soul and logos signifying a rational course of study. The next argument that was proposed was in terms of the study of mind. What is soul? How can it be studied? The inability to find clear answer to such questions led some ancient Greek philosophers to define psychology as the study of mind. Although the word mind was less mysterious and vague than soul, yet there were many questions that arose in this regard as to what is mind, how can it be studied. Consequently, this definition also was rejected. Finally, there was a proposition that psychology was a study in terms of consciousness. The failure to define the terms soul and mind persuaded the philosophers and psychologists to search some other suitable definitions. William James said, psychology is the description and explanation of state of consciousness as such. According to Wilhelm Wundt, psychology is a study of conscious thought which a person analyzes his behavior himself. This definition was also rejected on the grounds that it had a very narrow range on account as it spoke only of conscious behavior. It advocates introspection as a method of analyzing behavior, which is highly unscientific and subjective. The definitions discussed so far were unscientific and subjective. Let us look at a more precise and scientific interpretation of the term psychology. Psychology has been referred to as the study of behavior. From the 19th century onwards, with the advent of modern era of scientific investigation and thought, psychology began to be defined as a science of behavior. William McDougall, a British psychologist, defined psychology as a science of behavior. According to father of behaviorism, J.B. Watson, psychology is a science of behavior taking into account both animal and human behavior. Now let us probe further into the fields where psychology can be applied for the better functioning of the system or for betterment of mankind, which is also called as branches of psychology. Psychological principles are applied in manifold arenas of life and they constitute the branches of psychology. Here are some of the important branches of psychology. Pure psychology. Pure psychology refers to all the theories, concepts, principles covered in general psychology, which dwells in a group psychology, that is social psychology and individual psychology. Next is abnormal psychology. Abnormal psychology is a branch of psychology that studies unusual patterns of behavior, emotions and thoughts, which may or may not be understood as precipitating a mental disorder. Although many behaviors could be considered as abnormal, this branch of psychology generally deals with behavior in a clinical context. Social psychology. Social psychology is a discipline that uses scientific methods to understand and explain how the thought, feeling and behavior of an individual are influenced by actual, imagined or implied presence of other human beings. Experimental psychology. Experimental psychology is an applied branch in which experiments are used to collect data and perform research. Often their work builds one study at a time to a larger finding or conclusion. The next branch is physiological psychology. This psychology is a subdivision of behavioral neuroscience that studies the neural mechanism of perception and behavior through direct manipulation of brains of non-human animal subjects in controlled experimental conditions, and is mainly concerned with how physiology, genetics and biology affect emotional responses, memory, mental ill health, states of consciousness and sensory perception. Another branch is parapsychology. Parapsychology is a field of study concerned with the investigation of paranormal and psychic phenomena, which include telepathy, precognition, clairvoyance, psychokinesis, near-death experiences, reincarnation, apparitional experiences and other paranormal claims. It is often identified as a pseudoscience. Geopsychology is another branch of psychology that refers to the impact of geographical factors such as climatic conditions, relief features and occupation on the behavior of an individual. The next branch is developmental psychology. Developmental psychology is the scientific study of how and why human beings develop over the course of their life. Originally concerned with infants and children, the field has expanded to include adolescence, adult development, aging and the entire lifespan. Another branch is clinical psychology. Clinical psychology is an integration of science, theory and clinical knowledge for the purpose of understanding, preventing and relieving psychologically based distress or dysfunction and to promote subjective well-being and personal development. The next branch is industrial psychology. Industrial and organizational psychology, also called as occupational psychology or work psychology, is the scientific study of human behavior in the workplace and applies psychological theories and principles to organizations and individuals in their workplace. Legal psychology. Legal psychology is one of a number of disciplines that applies to psychological insights of human behavior in the matters of law. Military psychology. Military psychology is the research, design and application of psychological theories and empirical data towards understanding and predicting and countering behaviors either in a friendly or enemy forces or civilian population that may be undesirable, threatening or potentially dangerous to the conduct of military operations. Political psychology. Political psychology is an interdisciplinary academic field dedicated to understanding politics, politicians and political behavior from a psychological perspective. Educational psychology. Educational psychology is that branch of psychology in which psychological principles are applied in the field of education to enhance educational processes. Dear students, so far we have discussed the true meaning and term of psychology and its application in the various avenues of life. Until we meet again with more of it, have a nice time.